Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all having a lovely, lovely weekend. So today I wanted to discuss a video that I did 9 years ago. It's called Control Yourself to Control the World. Why it's right to be at fault even if you're not wrong. And also contrast that with this video I did yesterday, where you have three people who work here: Steve, Data Recovery and Management; Dan, Board Repair; and Patrick, Shipping, having a three-way contest with a foam basketball that they shoot into this little hoop over here that is by an IKEA shelf that houses the junk and garbage before it goes into e-waste. So we have this over here, which is the normal garbage, and then this IKEA shelf, which is pretty much e-waste waiting to be collected. And it's kind of bigger because, there's a bunch of stuff that we don't really have. Like we don't have garbage pickup for e-waste every single day. And you can see that I also have my lovely little bike parked over here. Now, they were having a three-way contest to see who could win, who can get the ball in the hoop more. And somebody had commented saying, as a customer, if I walked into a repair shop and saw employees playing like this, throwing balls, I'd be hesitant to leave my device for repairs. After watching this, I'm not sure what the best way to handle a situation like this is. And, maybe this isn't the time and place to be playing, eh? And, this particular person has often left comments that were really, really pedantic. But I wanted to kind of dig into this a little bit because I think it's an important topic. Now, one of the things that I think is really important to understand as a manager is that there must be a balance. So if you are always on the side of your employees, you're likely to have a blind spot to how your employees are not serving your customers. If your employee comes up to you and says, this person was mean, this person was an ass, this person's lying, blah, 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 and you always side with your employee, there is a chance that you will be providing poor customer service as a result of that. If you always think to yourself, there's nothing I could have done in this situation, then there's a good chance that you may not improve to a point where you're actually able to provide better customer service. In this video where I say control yourself to control the world, why it's right to be at fault even if you're not wrong, what I'm saying is that even if you don't believe you did anything wrong, it's important to always have some introspection on how your systems and processes could have been different to avoid a negative outcome. And I give examples in this video. You can't control somebody else choosing to be an asshole, but you can always control how you deal with it or how you put your systems in place to lessen the likelihood of that happening in the future. And that's something that we do with this business all the time. Anytime something doesn't go as planned, a ticket doesn't go as well as it could have, I'm always scrolling through this, and regardless of whether or not I think the person in the ticket is being mean or an ass or whatever else, I always think to myself, what could we have changed in order for this to have gone better? If it's taking a little longer to get something and there's a shortage of it and it's known that there's a shortage of it, I think to myself, well, why didn't we stock up on that ahead of time so that if there's a shortage into the future, we'd be able to offer a service that nobody else could? I'm always thinking to myself, what could we do differently? And that's an important part of doing business here. We always want to be the best at what it is we're doing, and we're always looking at how we can control ourselves because we don't have control over the world. We don't have control over the customers. We don't have control over the supply chain, but we have control over the choices that we make. At the same time, I think it's very important to also understand that if you consistently side with the customer, that you may end up in a situation where it's close to closing, somebody's on break, and you're not allowed to use a foam ball and toss it into a small basketball hoop because that may be perceived as, quote, unprofessional. And if you go that far in the opposite direction, if you go that far and have the pendulum swing in the direction of pleasing every single person, the type of person who's going to be mad and walk out because they see somebody having fun, then you're likely going to end up with a workplace that has far more compromises than retaining that one customer. Most people who walk into a place like this, if they're greeted immediately when you walk in the door, if somebody immediately attends to their issue, shows a level of proper professionalism. By proper professionalism, I mean actually knows their stuff, not is wearing a suit and tie and says, yes, sir, and thank you, sir, and gets their issue resolved, 99.9% of people are not going to care if one person that's 90 feet away in the back of the store next to the bathroom and a junk shelf are using a foam ball and tossing it into a hoop. That's just not something that's going to be an issue. But what can become an issue is if the people that are doing the work are then demoralized because you take away everything that is perceived to be fun because to others it is perceived as a harm or a danger. Because at the end of the day, you got to think to yourself, who's the type of person who's going to complain because they see somebody actually having some fun? And you also have to understand the kind of work that we do in this industry. This is a job that takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on you mentally, but it also takes a toll on you emotionally. This is Steve's Pure Air bench. He has two of them. This is his PC3000 machine and all of his donors. There are times where he has spent 30 hours on a single drive and only gotten a partial recovery, where that partial recovery was not good enough for that customer, so it was all to waste. There are times where Paul or Dan have spent 7 hours digging through a hole in one board to try to remove every single short, and they finally do it, only for it to intermittently turn on for a reason that they can't figure out. When it doesn't matter in this field, this is one thing I've noticed. It doesn't matter if you've been in this field for 9 years. There are technicians that have been with me for 9 years that have fixed tens of thousands of tickets that are experts. When you have 3 or 4 difficult cases in a row that you have spent several hours on and you got nothing out of it, it is depressing. It takes a toll on you emotionally. It can give you that sense of imposter syndrome of, maybe I'm not good after all. And it's really interesting to me how, regardless of how successful somebody is, regardless of how good they are, regardless of how many 5-star reviews are in their name for work that they've done that other shops couldn't do, if you have 3 or 4 jobs in a row that took you several hours that were not good, one of the things I notice is you can actually see just the dopamine and serotonin getting sucked out of their body on their face when you walk by their workstation. You can actually see it start to affect them. And one of the things that helps keep people sane, but also willing to put that 4 to 5 hours into the next case that they may not be able to fix, is taking 5 minutes to play with a Nerf gun, taking 10 minutes to play a little game of foam basketball, taking out cards for a few minutes and having a game, or a rock, paper, scissors, or whatever it is, or, just having little Post-it notes on the side wall over here that they use as a height competition, or having a little weightlifting quick contest in the back of the store before they go back to their work. These are small things that really take away the elements of the job that suck the fun out of it. And it's very easy for the fun to be sucked out of this type of work. Most of the boards that we work on are boards that other companies have failed to repair, and as a result, they told their customers, send it here. They're not easy. They're not rewarding much of the time, and a lot of them are not fixable. And it really does take a toll on your head. So the ability to do stuff like this, and the ability of your employees to understand that if they want to have 5 minutes of fun, that you have their back as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do, is really important when you run this type of business. It's going to have a noticeable effect on the success rate. It's going to have a noticeable effect on the retention rate of the people that stay here. Again, Steve's been here 9 years. Dan's been here 3.5 years. Paul is coming up on 5 years. Lots of the people that are here have been here for half the time that the company's been in business. And a poor reason that is there, I think, is because the environment is an environment where they're not miserable. Steve started out as customer service, moved on to basic technician, then management, then data recovery, and all of this stuff that he learned, he decided to figure out on his own. And that's just not something you do in an environment where you're miserable. Dan was a shipping clerk, and he just decided on his own, I kind of want to learn board repair. Let me ask everybody else here what they're doing, shadow them, check it out. And again, that's not the type of thing that you do in an environment where if you take a foam basketball and try to shoot it into a hoop, your boss comes by, takes it away from you, and says, get back to work. It's going to change things to a considerable extent. So I think it's something that's important to think about if you are that type of business owner that tries to outlaw fun. Now, it is very important to have a balance. If you have 9 people in the back playing with a foam basketball and somebody walks in the store and there's not somebody over there to immediately greet them, you're screwing up as a business owner, and your employees are screwing you as a manager. If you do not have somebody to pick up the phone, if the phone rings 8 times and nobody picks it up because everybody is playing a game, that is bad. We have a company culture here. When somebody walks in, within a couple of seconds, you need to make eye contact, acknowledge them. How can I help you? Or if you can't acknowledge them, if you're on the phone, you put your finger up, just like 1 second, give me a second. You acknowledge them. If somebody's calling, we don't have that just go on a voicemail during the day thing. You answer them immediately. You should answer the emails as quickly as humanly possible. All of that stuff needs to be done. Your cue, to some extent, needs to be done. And that has to be inculcated into the company culture. It cannot simply be fun at the expense of work. There must always be a balance, but it is important to keep that balance. And it's also important to understand that in the pursuit of pleasing somebody like this, that would say, I would not leave something there, you also have to look at the flip side of that. How many jobs may your employees say screw it instead of continuing to work on because they just don't want to have the dopamine sucked out of their head by a job that is not fixable? How much are you missing out on employees kind of bonding and getting along, and that creating a company culture of camaraderie where people are watching each other's backs and trying to figure out things together and fix things together because you decided that you wanted to take away their foam ball. So all of this is something to think about. I always think that you should be looking at what it is that you could be doing differently. And technically, if I really want to follow my own advice, what I could do is put a curtain over here so that if people are having fun and there's somebody who walks in who's a killjoy, they can't see it. But I feel like that would be going a little too far. Every now and then, and it's not often, it happens maybe once a month, you'll have somebody walk in who's an absolute killjoy, and you'll have this sense in the tip of your face that if you smile or you're having fun, that's actually going to make them mad. And, I've never, ever, ever wanted to be at a point where that was the customer that I catered to. I've always done a lot of work here to build up our reputation, to really do the type of work that gets us to customer base that we have and gets us the reviews and the ratings that we do, so that we have the luxury of when that type of person walks in of saying, Sonny's on St. Mark's Place between 2nd and 3rd, or the Apple Store is on 14th and 9th, or something like that, because it's just not worth it at the end of the day. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What type of company do you have? What kind of company do you work at? Do you work at a company where the pendulum has vastly shifted over to everybody just kind of screws around and you have a toxic bro culture and no work gets done? Or do you have the type of company where, their fun is outlawed, and if you're caught smiling or laughing, you have a manager that looks at you suspiciously? Or is the pendulum right in the center, where you get all of your work done, you treat every customer as if they matter, you deal with their issues, concisely and professionally, but simultaneously, if you have a bad run-in with some code or something, you can spend 5 or 10 minutes around a water cooler shooting a basket with some friends? Let me know. I'm very curious your input, and I'm also curious your circumstances and your thoughts. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.